welcome back to another Fabulous Confabulation with me, Jay Mills. Now today I have the pleasure of speaking with the wonderful Liza Donnelly. She is a cartoonist and writer for the New Yorker magazine and a resident cartoonist at CBS News. She also writes for the New York Times, Forbes.com, and Medium.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for talking with me.
My pleasure.
So what is a typical day for you as a cartoonist and writer?
I don't have a typical day. Probably like yours, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Well, if I'm working on cartoon ideas if I'm trying to come up with ideas, I get up in the morning and go right to it because I'm freshest in the morning. And then, so the idea part is in the morning, and then the afternoon is more for finishing written pieces or pitching, answering emails, doing illustration jobs, the stuff that doesn't take a lot of creative, the inspirational work. Yeah. So that's sort of typical. But I do travel a lot, so
nice.
For public speaking and live drawing, which is something new that I'm doing.
Right. Okay. And how did you get started into cartoonists, and what kind of training do you need, if any, for cartoonists?
Well, I was a shy little girl, and I was always drawing, apparently, when I was little. So when I was about 7, my mother gave me a book of cartoons, and I started tracing the cartoons, and I realized I could make her smile, make her happy. And so I was hooked. And I just loved being a cartoonist and making my friends happy, and it became my thing, being, the quiet kid in the corner with the book drawing. And then I went to a college, a liberal arts college, and studied art eventually, and then got a job at the Natural History Museum here in New York.
Wow.
So I had a job, which is important.
Right.
And it was a great job. It was a really nice job doing art at the museum. But I really wanted to be a cartoonist, and I just kept drawing and figuring out how to do an actual cartoon, and I set my sights on the New Yorker. Because I wanted to be a political cartoonist, but didn't think I had a strong enough voice to, get angry about politics, although now I do.
Yeah.
And so I looked at the New Yorker, and the New Yorker has political cartoons that are more about culture and less about, politics. So that suited me, and I started submitting to them, and I sold my first one a couple of years out of college.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks.
And then what kind of tools do you use for cartoonists and all of that? Yeah.
Well, when I first started out, it was in print, of course, so I used sketchbooks and then bond paper, which is a heavier weight paper to do the finished drawings on. And a lot of different cartoonists use different tools, but I would use, and still use it sometimes, a bottle of ink and a Croquis pen. And that's my favorite kind of pen to use for finished work because you can get a varied line. And then a brush for gray washes or watercolor if called for.
Nice.
But now I work digitally a lot. So,
right. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Was it a hard switch?
No,
because you still do both, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do the paper less and less.
Yeah.
But which is sad because then you don't have an original piece of artwork.
No. Yeah. But it's less convenient.
It is. I work on the iPad. And so I can draw anywhere. I mean, I have it with me now. So.
So who and where did you get your inspirations from for your cartoons and your books?
That's a hard question.
You can name a few.
Well, when I was young, there were not many women cartoonists that I wasn't aware of any contemporaries when I was young. A little later, I learned of a couple cartoonists that were women. But when I was young, I was a feminist, and I still am. Yeah. But I didn't think it was applicable to my work. I thought I just wanted to be a cartoonist. I wasn't a woman cartoonist, so I looked at everybody's work, and I was influenced a lot by male cartoonists as well. Political cartoonists, social commentary. There was a woman in France named Claire Bretéché who was the only one that I knew of at the time who was doing cultural cartoons about women's issues, women's empowerment, women's rights. There weren't many people doing it. This is in the 70s and 80s, so that was just not much of a thing. Although in the 70s there were some like underground women cartoonists. but they were not in the mainstream publications.
Nice. And like you were talking about, art is just so powerful and is able to make a change. How do you feel your art is making a change in the world?
Well, I hope it is.
It definitely has an impact.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Well, now with social media, it's very easy to get your work out there.
Right.
Seen by more eyeballs. You know, Jamila, I think one person can make a change slowly, or one written piece at a time, one cartoon at a time, by just, like, cartoons are, first of all, people are really attracted to cartoons because we all love them, right?
Yeah.
So you're drawn, no pun intended, just to look at it. So you've got their attention. And then I do a lot of cultural cartoons, so you can poke fun at cultural conventions.
Okay.
If there's something that you think is stupid or silly, the things that we do that we're not even realizing we're doing, gender-wise or equal rights-wise, you can do it in a cartoon, and it's a great way for people to see what they're doing, or see what other people are doing, and maybe change it.
Yeah.
So, it's a softer way. Nobody wants to read a long article about women's rights. They'd rather look at a cartoon.
Right. I mean, that's the first thing I know, speaking for me, is that's the first thing my eyes go to. Right. In anything. It's like, oh, a cartoon, color. Right. Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. So being in this field, are there any obstacles you had to overcome or still overcoming? And if so, how did you go about that?
Well, in my field, in my type of cartooning, since we're all freelance, there was no gatekeeper literally at the door saying you can't have this job. I think in the animation studios back in the day, they did say, no, we don't hire women. But so it was a little less obvious for me. And a lot of the cartoonists in my business sign their last name, so nobody really knows what gender you are or what race you are. There's the gatekeepers, at least of the New Yorker, it was a male editor. They were male editors there. So looking back on it now, I realize that they may have had their own perspective and didn't understand or didn't get some of the cartoons that I was drawing because they're not women. Not that I was doing women's issues, because I don't know what that is. But my perspective may have been something that they didn't consider funny. I sold a lot of cartoons under a woman named Tina Brown at the New Yorker, who was the first female editor, senior editor of the magazine. So there's a bias, an unconscious bias maybe, in art and literature that is more about the subject matter or the standards that are harder to pinpoint or harder to see, but they're barriers nonetheless.
Well, that's good. That you're able to, like, I don't know how to say it, but basically what you were saying, that there wasn't, just because you're a woman, I mean, it's not good to say hiding under your last name, but, like, you were able to, do what the men were doing in that particular field. Yeah,
it was.
So that's good.
I wrote a book called Funny Ladies, which is about the women cartoonists at the magazine, and there were women in the beginning of the magazine, 1925. But it has, and so I studied it and wrote about it. So it's been rough for women over the years, and there have been fewer women humorists and women cartoonists over the years. But now there's so many more, and women are using their humor big time, and it's great.
Yeah.
But when I started out, there were very few women doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you also do public speaking, like you mentioned. What is one of your most memorable public speaking events, and what do you usually talk about?
Well, I have to say the most memorable was the TED Talk that I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've done many of those, right? Well, the TED Talk. Okay.
I did a TED Talk, and then I've done TEDx's, which are
different,
smaller numbers of people. But the TED Talk I did was about women using humor for change. So it was a very short talk about how humor has helped me come out of my shell and learn to speak my mind, and how you can use humor to change the rules. And I think a lot of women can do the same. That humor is a powerful tool, and humor is often not used because people are scared to use it. And it can be a controlling force, you know. So that's what that talk was about.
Nice.
And it was translated into 38 languages and watched over 1.4 million times. Isn't that? I was just amazed. Yeah. So,
oh my gosh, that's amazing. You guys have to check it out.
Just go to the TED site and go into my name, Liza Donnelly. So.
Yeah, I can put a link.
Okay,
in the description.
Yeah, but that was awesome. I mean, that really, using that word, I don't use that word often, but it really was, because it was like over 500 people in the audience, and then it was being live streamed around the world, and it was, and to hear people laugh at my cartoons, this huge number of people laughing at one of my drawings, because I use drawings as well as speaking. It's sort of a dance between the two. It was a wonderful feeling. I mean, you're a performer, so you know what it's like when you get that response.
Right.
God,
were you nervous?
You know, I was so well prepared. I was nervous, but not crazy nervous.
I got this. Nice.
Yeah.
So you are a cultural envoy for the U.S. State Department. Can you briefly explain what that means and what you do? Well,
it was the first trips I went on were maybe 7 years ago. I forget. But the State Department has a speaking program, and they have artists or performers, or in my case, editorial cartoonists, as a part of the program, meaning we're available. If a country's U.S. embassy in that country is interested in having you come speak to the public, they'll invite you over there. So I was invited to go to Israel and Palestine, and also Macedonia. And I haven't been anyplace else since then, but it was really fun. And I spoke about editorial cartoons and women's rights and free speech.
Nice,
like
nice. And you are also a charting member of the Cartooning for Peace.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
That was started in 2005. Cartooning for Peace, started by a French cartoonist. It is a group of, and it began at the UN in New York. And it is a group of international cartoonists from all over the globe that see cartooning as a way to discuss problems, global problems, and to talk across borders. So, and to learn about other countries' cartoonists and political issues through cartoons. So we have meetings all over the world, and I mean, I'm active at different times in different years and all the time, but it's a great way to. I've met so many cartoonists from all over the world. It's really it's fascinating.
That's amazing, and it's also amazing how you use your gifts and talent to, spread goodness, spread awareness, and to help people around the world. Like, it's more than just having the talent; it's what you do with it, and that's really
true.
Admirable.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Do you have anything exciting coming up?
Any
goals or anything?
Oh, goals. I'm preparing for another talk at South by Southwest. Have you heard of that conference?
No.
It's a big conference in Texas.
Okay.
I won't go into it if you don't know about it, but it's you might want to look it up, because it's got performing, it's got music, it's got politics, and I spoke there last year, and I'm speaking again this year. South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. I'm working on 3 film projects with some filmmakers.
Ooh.
One of which I can't talk about, but because I signed an NDA. But the other 2, they're all about women.
Okay.
And one is about international women cartoonists, and it's great. It wasn't my
idea.
idea.
That's so exciting! I'm excited.
And the other one is a travel show, using my drawings and feminism. So that's
nice. So we've got some things to look forward to.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, these film projects, as you know, they take a long time.
Yes,
if you don't get the money, they die.
They do, but we're hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you're not working, what do you like to do in your free time?
I love to watch streaming shows.
Okay.
A lot of
What's
shows.
your favorite? Or the last one you watched?
Well, I just rewatched with my husband, because he hadn't seen it, The Morning Show, which is...
I've heard about that.
It's powerful.
I need to watch it. It's on Apple TV,
Yeah,
right? Okay, I need to watch that.
And we just watched The Americans, which I hadn't
Okay.
seen before. It came out a couple of years ago, and it was a really popular show about Russian spies living an ordinary life in Washington.
Okay.
That's all I can think of right now. There's so much good content out there.
I know.
Wow.
I just watched in one of my classes Parasite, and I was like, so good. Did
Wow.
you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
it's shocking.
No,
It's
yeah,
not like
it's
very
shocking.
dark.
Like the ending is just so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
If you
some
haven't.
good movies out this year.
There are
Yeah.
some good movies, really. Do you have any last advice for the beauties who want to be aspiring cartoonists and writers?
Well, just have faith in yourself and keep going. And you're going to get a lot of rejection, which I've gotten. So I still get a lot of rejection, as you know. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, like you, I'm auditioning every week
Right.
to get a cartoon into the New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, do the best you can, submit the stuff, and then on to the next work. Try not to dwell on what didn't work out. And you'll never know why it didn't work out, because people have their own ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna it's gonna be subjective.
Right.
So surround yourself with people that are supportive, that understand you and encourage you, and just don't give up. Right?
Don't give up.
Right. Don't give up.
Right.
And find. I don't like the word mentor, because I didn't have a mentor. I looked at
Okay.
other people's cartoons, so you don't need to have a mentor necessarily. But if you can find one, I mean, I think your loved ones are the people around you, your friends, your family,
Yeah.
can serve that purpose.
And honestly, like, there's so much technology, like YouTube. You can
Yeah.
honestly look and boom, mentor
Yeah.
right there. If you think about it.
And I love social media, so if you want to follow me on social,
Yes.
Instagram or Twitter or Facebook even, please do.
I will also put that in the description.
Yeah, great.
Oh, so this was amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me.
I'm so excited for your career too.
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to watch
Thank
what
you.
you do.
Thank you. I'm so glad. And we will stay in contact, and there will be more stuff to come.
Good. Maybe we
Yes.
can collaborate on something. I don't know what. But.
I don't know what either, but we'll talk
Okay.
about we'll talk about that. All right, beauties. So Liza is a girl with beauty and brains, and so are you. Bye.
Bye.